Over the last few weeks, you've gotten to see bits and pieces of my existing collection. Today, I'm going to look at the other side of the coin and share with you a few books that are on my current want list. Hey everyone, it's me, Kevin. Welcome to Doc's Comics. As I said in the intro, I'm going to show you a few books that I've been looking for lately all over the place. I'm a little under the weather right now, so I was going to do a video that's relatively short where you don't have to see my haggard face so much. So I've got 6 or 7 books that I'm looking at. Hopefully these aren't typical books that you see on a lot of people's wish lists in order to keep it a little interesting. So let's get right to it. First in my list, and probably the book that has been my personal albatross for a number of years, is Rawhide Kid number 22. This is similar to Kid Cold number 107 in that it has kind of a supernatural cover. It has a two-gun kid facing off with what looks to be some kind of animated stone statue. As far as Rawhide Kid is concerned, I only need 21, 22, and 25 to have from 17 up until the end of the series, issue 17 being the one where he was revamped by Jack Kirby. And far and away, 22 is the toughest one of these to get. A 5.5 sold in December of 2024 for $660. So I know this one's going to be fairly expensive, but that's probably about the grade I'm looking at minimum. I'd love to get a 5.0, 5.5 for this book. That's right around. I mean, that books that old, they're hard to find in higher grade than that, but I think $660 is a lot of money for that. So I'm patient, eternally patient, looking for that book and hoping I can find one at that ideal price slash condition combination. Second on the list is Justice League of America number 43. This is the first appearance of the Royal Flush Gang. Um, it's 150 to $200 for a 9.0 very fine near mint copy. That's about what I've budgeted for this book. A 9.0 slab sold in December of 2024 for $159. So that's a pretty rough estimate of about what I'm willing to pay for a high grade book. Just like most of these books, with one exception, the numbers that pop up, there aren't a ton of comps on these books. So I'm having to do a best guess, an educated guess on how much I want to pay. And just like with a lot of these, there are a couple of them that are that are for sale online, but the price is too much or the condition isn't quite where I want it. Third is Green Lantern number 42, the Silver Age series, Hal Jordan. This has a Zatanna appearance or a Zatanna crossover in this issue of Green Lantern. This is another one, another book that just doesn't pop up very much for sale. It's kind of a filler issue. I don't even know if you'd call it a key necessarily, maybe a minor key because of the Zatanna appearance. Uh, Doing a little research on this, a very fine near mint raw sold in February of 2024 for $154. That data is a little old. There hasn't been one recorded since then. I've got about $200 or so budgeted for this book. I'm not going to overpay for it like with most books. So again, trying to be patient, hoping one pops up that I want to pay, but I've got about a $200 budget for this one also. This is probably the most common book on the list. It's Marvel Spotlight number 2, which I'm sure most of you know is the first appearance of Werewolf by Night. But ironically, I'm not after it necessarily because it is the first appearance of Werewolf by Night. It's actually the only issue of Marvel Spotlight that I still need to complete the run. And as you've learned in previous videos, I am a completist, and there are certain runs that I'm trying to knock out. Marvel Spotlight happens to be one of them. This one is the most plentiful for sale by far. It's a little more common, but in my opinion, most of the copies that I'm seeing offered online are way overpriced, and I don't see it in kind of a true auction format very much. So almost all of them are buy it nows. An 8.0, graded 8.0 sold for $405 this month in August of 2025. An 8.0 is probably the minimum grade I would like to get on this. It's a square bound, so I know it's a little harder to find a nicer grade. And so that's about my budget. I might bump it up to $500 if I find one that's really sharp that ticks a lot of the boxes. But that is another one that is on my list that's going to cost me a pretty penny, similar to that Rawhide Kid. Unlike Rawhide Kid, this one is pretty obscure. This is Pat Boone number 4. Yes, Pat Boone had his own comic in the 1950s. It was only 5 issues. They all have photo covers. This is another one that there's virtually no comps. It does not pop up. It does not sell. And when it does, it's in pretty low grade. And for a condition junkie like me, that can be very, very frustrating. I don't even have a good idea of how much I want to pay for one. I'm kind of thinking in the $200 range. If I find one that's mid grade or better, hopefully better than mid grade at that price. I do have a couple of issues of this. I think I have number 2 and number 5. So there's a couple more. I'd like to finish this run. And really, one of the main reasons I want to get this run is that all of them have Bob Oxner art, and Bob Oxner is one of my favorite artists from that era. He does a lot of good girl, pinup girl art stuff, and he's very talented. So Pat Boone Comics number 4. Two more on the list, and this one is tied to the showcase video that I did a couple of weeks ago. It's showcase number 81. And showcase number 81 is the first appearance of Wendy and Willie. If you're asking who the heck is that, you are not the only person. It's one of those showcases that is pretty obscure. I think they had a little their own series for just a little while. I don't think it lasted very many issues, but it's another one that just doesn't pop up very much, and the ones that do pop up are overpriced. There's currently one on eBay. I think it's a graded 8.0, and the buyer wants, I think, $90 for it. I think I can get it a little cheaper than that if I'm just patient enough. Um, or I can find one where I spend $90 and maybe have it be higher than an 8.0, an 8.5, or a 9.0, or something like that. Again, this is another one of those books that just doesn't come up frequently enough for a lot of the pricing apps really to give me accurate numbers. So I got to rely on Overstreet. I got to rely on a couple of other things and just make an educated guess. But somewhere in that $75 to $100 range for an 8.0 or higher is what I want on that one. And then the last book that I'll give you on my want list for this video, it's Deadly Hands of Kung Fu number 28. You've seen a couple of Deadly Hands of Kung Fu on my this week's pickup videos that I've done over the last few weeks. Number 28 is the last one that I need. It's a white cover, it's a Bruce Lee cover, and for that reason, not only is it in pretty high demand, but the white cover also makes it fairly difficult to find in pretty high grades. There are quite a few online, but kind of the formula here is that either they are not in the condition that I want or they are way overpriced. Again, trying to find that perfect intersection between price and condition is very difficult when you are somebody who doesn't want to overpay, but you still want nice stuff. A slab 9.4, just to give you an idea, it sold in September of 23, so a couple of years ago for $205. I think $150 budgeted for this book is high enough for me to get a pretty sharp, like 9.0 or higher copy. So that's kind of what I got budgeted for that one as well. So real quick, those are 7 books that are on my current want list that I'm actively searching for. I've got them keyworded on a lot of the apps that I use to buy comics. Hopefully, with a little luck, cross my fingers, I'll finally get each of those in the condition that I want at what I consider to be a fair price. I'll do more of these as time goes on. I hope you liked it. Again, stay tuned. We post more videos every day. We post long form videos on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I fill up the rest of the week with shorts that flip through a lot of the comic book runs that I have. So I hope you all have a nice afternoon, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.